welcome back to Clubhouse Sports here.
What's up, Chad?
Been away for a while. Chuck, any resolutions?
Podcast.
New Year's resolutions. I'm just gonna try to be a better human from the time that I wake up to the time that I go to bed.
How's that going so far?
Hasn't been going great, but
There's a lot of days left.
luckily, we've got about 350 plus days left, so I think I could probably right the ship.
Oh, look at that. A little positivity to go into our NFL segment for the week here. Charlie came up with this great concept, and we're gonna rate on a scale of 1 to 10 some of the things that have happened in the last couple of days. How fucked truly is it? So we'll start where we ended last night, Sunday Night Football. Tom, how fucked is it going forward inside your own 30, losing in the third quarter?
Well, for listeners out there, we're referring to the Chargers-Raiders game that happened last night. And going forward inside your 30 is pretty fucked. I'm going to give that – out of the things that happened yesterday, I'll give that a 9 out of 10. Pretty fucked, pretty much setting up your team to lose. So that Staley guy in L.A., he's got some problems because he's got a pretty talented roster that didn't amount to anything this year. Pretty fucked. Give it a 9.
Let's start this off with a 10 because, first of all, from what I saw, it was a long one. Okay, so it's not an inch here. And the other thing is, I know he's not calling the plays on offense. He's the DC and head coach, but if you're going for it and you're giving that, you guys got to be on the same page about getting a call that's going to convert it. I mean, stuff it right up the middle. I didn't see there the planning. I get it if, you got something drawn up, but didn't make any sense to me. And he's lucky he's the defensive coordinator too, because if, that change of possession with a defense who's competing already down 3, it just made absolutely 0 sense to me. So let's start this off with a 10.
It's a pretty impulsive night for Staley. Chuck, you got anything to add? Get a score?
Yeah, it's definitely a 10 in my book. It's some shit that you would do in Madden, in my opinion. I think somebody said that earlier. Especially with all things considered and the tie being a factor. What are you doing giving away 3 points? I don't get it. I think it's a very fireable offense. He's lucky he's in his first year, because otherwise I think people would be calling for his head. It was just dumb.
Yeah, I mean, there's this whole narrative spent around the offseason about how he was going to be this brilliant, forward-thinking coach, analytics-based, which is what the league's going towards. And I don't think it's an indictment against analytics as much as, he called a timeout that cost him the game quarter and a half later, willing to there was Derek Carr said post-game that the timeout changed their mindset going forward in the game. I think they were going to need this thing out. And Staley trying to secure, possibly force a punt instead of let the clock expire, cost them the game.
If I'll just be able to add other things, Chuck brought up fireable offense, and I think that's a totally great point. I've also heard that from other people too. Just for me, you talk about, head coaches who have these play calling responsibilities, having to make those game managing decisions. He's not doing those well. His defense is pretty poor right now. The Raiders, scored 16 on the Browns, and, half their guys in COVID and Nick Mullins at quarterback, and the Raiders are running all over the Chargers. So he's not checking either of those boxes.
Yeah, and before we move on, it's not like Josh Jacobs has been a workhorse thus far in his career. He's been a fine player, but to let him decide the playoff fate, I think that's pretty wild. But we're going to move on to something potentially more fucked. We've got the Colts. All they got to do is win and get in. I, of course, famously on our last podcast mentioned that I thought the Colts were a Super Bowl contender. Here we are a month and a half later. Carson Wentz and went into Jacksonville and chose to shit the bed. And how fucked is losing to the Jags in a win in your in game, Tom?
Sure, I'll lead this off again. I mean, considering the fact that the Colts are 0-6 in their last 6 appearances in that stadium, I'm going to give this a 7. It's pretty fucked, the fact that they're clearly the better team, but they've had problems in the past half decade against the Jags. So obviously they had to win and get in, but they lost and they go on vacation. So I'm going to give it a 7.
I guess I'll go next. I'll add an 8 in here. Tom makes a good point. They have struggled in Jacksonville, but that is something obviously going into this game, and I wouldn't even call it a trap game because it's a season on the line game. But I think they knew they were going to have a battle going in. You didn't have to beat them by 25. You had to beat them by a point to get in. It was all in your hands. So that's an 8 for me.
Yeah,
I
think it's at least an 8, possibly a 9. Trevor Lawrence hadn't thrown a touchdown pass in 2 months. He comes out, and this is not an indictment on Trevor Lawrence because he's put in a terrible situation, but he came out and looked like the guy that everybody was expecting him to be the whole year. And this Colts defense was supposed to be stout, and we were watching Week 18, Trevor Lawrence. That's going to be the only 2 plays on his highlight film with the touchdown from this game. So, yeah, I don't know how you lose this game. Everyone likes to crown Chris Ballard and Frank Reich for being these stable franchise leaders, but they pissed down their leg to finish the stretch of this season. So I don't know. They're gonna have to look at something else because they can't really move off Carson Wentz. They gave up a first and a third for him.
They're frauds. They always will be. Carson Wentz fraudulent.
Chuck?
Fraudulent's a good word. Disaster, dumpster fire are also words I think you could probably use. When you have one job and it's to beat the worst team in the league to get into the playoffs, and you don't do that and don't even come close to doing that, yep, I think another fireable offense here. Coaches just seemed like yesterday just seemed like a massive day to just fuck everything up. Is what?
How fucked is it?
Yeah.
10. That's a 10.
10.
Worst team in the league. All you got to do is beat them. Not only do you lose, you get your ass kicked.
Is that back-to-back 10s from Yug?
Yeah.
10. It was, like I said, it was a rough day in the NFL yesterday. If you're an aspiring head coach to be in the NFL, I think you got to be on cloud 9 happy now because, I mean, there's not a lot of people that could mess it up that badly between the Chargers and especially the Colts guy. Come on, man.
That's brutal. People were ready to give Frank Reich Coach of the Year going into this game, so it's
that's the thing. I mean, I do have a lot of respect for these coaches. I know, everyone seems to think they can do their job and everything, but you need to at least control what you can control. And I feel like, a lot of these guys are just, I don't know, something late in the year, they're doing absolutely what they don't need to be doing. So it definitely warrants the criticism in a lot of these cases.
Speaking of criticizing head coaches, how fucked is it to celebrate with your team in the end zone and proceed to lose the game, Chuck?
Yeah, based off if that's the only highlight you watched, you thought you'd be watching the Super Bowl parade. I don't know what he's doing down there. I'm pretty sure that's
McVay and the 49ers. Chuck can't set any scene for us here. Go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. It was a very emotional game, but yeah, you would think that the guy was celebrating the Super Bowl, but I'm pretty sure that's also supposed to be a penalty, celebrating the end zone, but they were penalized enough based off of the massive comeback that occurred after. I think that's just a little bit of karma, but yeah, I wouldn't do that. I mean, all you're doing is adding fuel to the fire for the other team.
So how fucked is it?
10. That's a 10. You can't do that, especially against the Niners. I mean, I guess it's only came back to bite him in the ass. So
great, 3 straight 10s from Yug.
The Rams still kind of lucked into a good spot in the playoffs. They're going to be playing a flailing team in the Cardinals that we'll see how these guys pick that game. But for me, I think the Rams have too much talent and too high of a floor to probably get bounced early in the playoffs. But it's kind of just an indictment on the last month. Matthew Stafford and the offense has been very hot, running very hot and cold. Does anyone want to jump in and think about where this team's headed going into the postseason?
I
Abo.
they're failing to run the football, which is putting, from what I see, all the pressure on Stafford. And at this point of the year, if you're not going to protect him, he's already beat up. I think you're going to see those turnovers that have hurt him a lot in his career. But they got to get there. I know Cam Akers is back. I don't know what he can bring coming off of that, but they got to get a running game going because we'll see how far they can get in the playoffs if it's all on his shoulders.
Yeah.
I'll be honest. I think they might get a win out of it because they're playing another team that's in the same boat as them, really limping into the playoffs, in my opinion. But yeah, I don't. Whoever wins that game, I don't see them winning another one. So I guess they got lucky that they get to play each other because they're both trying to figure it out on offense. And hopefully they get one more chance to do it.
And touch on the Niners a little bit in this matchup, since Chuck didn't really want to get into that too much. I will have to say they seem like a team that is poised to potentially make a late run here in the postseason. So it's all going to be whether or not Jimmy G is going to fuck it up or not, which he's been proved to do in the past. But the rest of this team, defensively especially, seems to be kind of getting locked in down the stretch.
Didn't they just lay an egg last week against the Titans?
I mean,
I'll just throw it out there.
Titans are the 1 seed in the AFC. They almost beat them in in Tennessee.
They suck.
All right. How fucked is it that we got to watch the Steelers team play again?
3.
3?
Are you surprised that they're in the playoffs? Because I'm not. They have a winning record every single year. So.
But do you want to watch them play? That's the question I'm asking more.
Oh, well, I'm not answering that question, Trent. Fact of the matter is they're a winning franchise, winning culture, and it's not fucked at all that they're in the playoffs while other teams in the AFC North are not. It's not fucked at all.
That's a.
Well, I've seen the Steelers play a couple times this year. I don't know how they're in the damn playoffs. Ben Roethlisberger, most of the time I see him, it looks like he's running around with concrete blocks stuck to his ankles. But I guess it all came down to, instead of losing to the Lions, tying the Lions. So as much as that sucked at the time for the Steelers, to be honest with you, that ended up saving their ass. So shout out to the Detroit Lions.
Yeah, and talk about laying a recent egg. We got the Steelers team that's played this Chiefs team already and lost by 26 points.
Yep. Not pretty, but it is the playoffs. Anything can happen. Pittsburgh has a couple. They have the T.J. Watt on defense who could theoretically wreck a game, but I don't know if he will. I think that's probably the only chance that they get the game of their lives from Roethlisberger, a little resurgence, and T.J. Watt balls out. But I don't see how any other way that they could win.
Ollie?
And I had nothing to add.
No score? I don't think. I'll give it a 6.
Of what? What's the question?
How fucked
is it? What do you look at the frickin' segment we're on?
I don't want to answer that question.
All right, Tom. How fucked is it that the GM gets to fire the head coach for drafting Tua over Justin Herbert?
I don't know. It's pretty fucked. He's a pretty good coach, so he'll have a job within a week. Flores, speaking about, so I'll give it a 5 just because the Dolphins are a fucked organization, so it's just not out of the ordinary for them to do something like that. 5.
Kyle?
9.
You got anything you want to get into on that?
I sent it all in the group chat.
Well, yeah, I know, but let's see.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we're listening. Here's the pod. What do you got to say on the pod? In front of America.
They tank, and they expect the coach to get through it and compete through it, and he actually gets them close to a playoff berth. And I think the GM struck out on a lot of these picks they gathered. From what I'm hearing, Flores, is maybe a bit of a difficult guy to work with. I told you my reasoning, so that's why it's a 9.
Yeah, and to piggyback off of that, I think the only thing that you can point to is for Flores that he's been through 4 offensive coordinators and 4 offensive line coaches in 3 years. But as you guys already mentioned, and this is a team who I think they're like over under his first year was 2.5, and they won 6 games and sort of built something consistent there despite I can't even name first round picks on their roster. I mean, I know they drafted tackles and corners, but I don't even know their fucking names.
Well, I can't. I can't figure out the Dolphins at all because does the public or national media, whoever, do they think that Tua's good? Because it sounds like every week they're either he sucks or oh wait, he's actually really good. Like, what's the verdict on him, or do we not know yet? Because I can't figure it out. I think he sucks, but sometimes people think he's good, and I don't fucking get it.
I mean, he's only played probably less than 20 games at this point, but we make decisions on people a lot faster than that.
In 3 games.
Yeah, and I think it's not out of the realm of possibility to say one of the worst offenses in the league. He's been captaining the last 2 years when he's played. I don't see any redeeming traits other than he can throw the ball 7 yards accurately. Chuck?
Yeah, I mean, I did watch him like a couple games of the Dolphins, and every play was like the Jalen Waddle or something right at the line of scrimmage. It was pretty bad to watch the offense run, but it worked. They ran for first downs, and they were the hottest team to end the year pretty much. So it was interesting to see.
Imagine Herbert throwing to Waddle.
What was he going to just dump it off to him like Tua does, or what?
Actually fucking ripping it. What do you think, Chuck?
I don't know. I mean, people say they won 7 games in a row, but if you really break it down, they didn't beat anybody worth a shit. They just beat up on some good teams, and he's had some accurate games and like doesn't really do anything to wow you. But I think he's just going to eventually fall into that game manager category with so many quarterbacks. I think the next coach they get's probably huge for him. That's either going to make him maybe take that next step, or he's just going to end up, like I said, being one of those game managers. But he did win 7 games in a row and had a minute into the final week, which doesn't make sense as to why they fired their coach. But I think the verdict is still out on him after 2 years. They got a big hire coming up.
All right, that's a nice positive spin by Yug to end that. I guess the verdict is also still out on one coach. Chuck, how fucked is it we're going to keep Joe Judge in place after QB sneaking the ball on 3rd and 9 and on his side of the field losing?
I hate that we're even using part of this time to talk about the New York Giants because they are a damn disgrace to the NFL. But they are one of the 32 teams, so I guess we do have to talk about them. I don't know how that guy still has a job. I don't know how the quarterback still has a job. I don't even know how Saquon Barkley still gets talked about. They just suck. I don't know anybody on their team that's good. I haven't known anybody on their team that's been good for the last 5 years, ever since Eli Manning left.
Evan Ingram's got potential, right?
Evan Ingram had potential 5 years ago when they drafted him in the first round. But I think if you're a New York Giants fan, the best news you've gotten probably in the last 3 to 4 years occurred today when Mr. Gettleman decided to hang it up. And we all know it was one of those things where he didn't want to retire, but it was either the Bleacher Report come out saying you got fired or the Bleacher Report notification come out saying you're retiring. And I think one sounds a lot better than the other, but holy shit, if I was a Giants fan, I probably would have stopped watching after week probably 4 or 5. And
if you
guys
Kadarius Toney, he any good?
He's a bright spot.
He didn't even score though.
But then
he didn't score a touchdown?
No.
No touchdowns.
Galladay didn't either. They spent $19 million on Galladay and a first on Toney. Neither of them scored.
That's a dumpster fire.
There's also a tweet out there that right when they signed Galladay, there was a picture of him, crossing his arms with his tats and with a ball and the New York skyline in the background. It says, how many touchdowns will this guy have this year? And somebody finally commented on it yesterday, 0. I don't know if you're a New York Giants fan, you got to look at outsourcing and picking a new team. Just
God, do you have anything to add on the shitstorm in New York? Gettleman stepping.
Did you give it a scale yet? Did you give it a score?
The New York Giants are a 10 out of 10 fuck.
Everyone's giving 10s.
It's not fucked. I mean, I would say this is the strongest 10 of all of them. They've been a fuck 10 level 10 for 5 years.
I'll give it an 8.
It's generous.
KP?
Or Gettleman's out, maybe they'll get some good players in there.
That's the plan.
I'll give it a 9. No, I'll give it a 10 because I haven't given it a 10 yet. So
It just
10
feels
for the Giants.
I gave my first 4.
Proud of it?
Yeah.
All right. Are we moving on to the NFL? Anybody got anything else they want to get off their chest?
You said the Giants are a 4?
No. Joe Judge sneaking it on 3rd and 9 is a 4.
Oh,
Yeah, you
also
protect your
fine.
QB, get out of there clean. 4.
I don't know about that one.
Even if it is Mike Lennon.
Chris's favorite. I think we'll move on to some hoops. Something got kind of overshadowed last night. Clay came back to the Warriors, and they reminded the Cavs that they are better than the Cavs. And Warriors are already a title favorite without Clay, and we haven't talked much NBA yet. So what do you guys see with the Warriors' outlook the rest of this season?
I see them dominating the West and, like you said, being the favorite to make it out of the West, I would say, in the finals. It's just they didn't skip a beat, it seems like, when they didn't, without KD, they seem to be in that 73-9 form. They're the team to beat because they're just so damn good.
I think Clay came back at the perfect time. I think they need him to make it out of the West. I would still put Phoenix there over him, but I think it's looking like a 2-team race there with Utah's struggles.
I think if they can get Klay Thompson back of even like a shade of what he was when they were ripping through the NBA a few years ago, even if he comes back as like 75% of what he once was, I think they're still the favorite, like everybody seems to believe. And I think what would be good for the NBA would be a Suns-Warriors matchup. I think that would go 7 games. But right now, I don't think there's anybody in the West that is up there with those two teams. I think they're up in the upper echelon by themselves. And then if you want to factor in the East, you can put the Nets in there. You can put the Bucks in there. But I think that league is definitely top heavy right now.
Where's the one seed? Where's the 1 seed in the East?
What about Chicago?
Who is it?
Chicago.
Bulls. See, I think they're a good team and they got a lot of talent, but it always seems to me that like the teams that storm onto the scene the first year or two, and they've been historically bad for the last few years, it always takes them a year to figure it out, especially because they're not used to playing in the May and June, and they get a little tired and fatigued. Don't get me wrong, the Bulls look pretty solid, but I think there's other teams that have proven it already there as opposed to them the verdict's still out. But they're good. They're good.
So the Bucks.
The Nets.
What have they proven?
They got proven winners. And they
won maybe.
I think on paper they're the best team in the league. But I still think if they played the Bulls in a 7-game series, I think the Nets would have their way.
I mean, at least the Bulls got like 3 or 4 guys that you can rely on being in the game every week. I don't know. To touch a little more on the Bulls, I think it's kind of been crazy to watch DeMar DeRozan become this like clutch guy all of a sudden for the Bulls. And if you got a 3-headed monster of Ball, DeRozan, and Levine in the backcourt, I do think that there's not many teams that can guard all 3 of those guys at once, especially Brooklyn rocking with Patty Mills and Harden overweight.
Hey, Patty Mills can play, man. I think he's been.
Yeah, I mean he's been saving them
this year.
He's been saving them, but do I think that I want that matchup with those guards? I don't know. Obviously, the Bulls need someone to defend Kevin Durant, and we'll see if anyone can step up to do that. But I think the Bulls should be taken as a serious contender.
I think
that's laughable, Trent. That's laughable.
How's that laughable?
they're gonna need to add a 4, like you said, with Patrick Williams out. They're with those guards are tough, but you get nothing defensively inside from Vucevic. They need at least somewhat of a bigger presence in there.
Yeah.
And you got to think about it like this: in the playoffs, you got Lonzo Ball, DeRozan, who's notorious for not being that great in the playoffs, and Zach LaVine, he's good. I'll give him LaVine, but
I don't think he's ever
He-
been in the playoffs.
Yeah.
though, has
Why are
he?
you giving him the credit?
Yeah, I don't think he's made the playoffs.
I already said I don't know if the Bulls they don't have the experience. I already said that. But if you stack them up against the Nets, Ball, LaVine, DeRozan versus Irving, Harden, and Durant, I'm going to take the Nets.
That's a hypothetical. That's a damn.
Yeah, it is. It is.
How is that
But
a
I think about it
hypothetical?
like this. Let me go back to the point of the Nets have done this before. They have people that are always in the playoffs and going deep into the season. They know that the regular season doesn't matter. The Bulls are still doing this, and they're great, and they're the 1 seed, and that's great. But the regular season in the NBA does not matter. The Nets know it. The Bucks know it.
That's fine.
But I think once you get there and you got to play half-court basketball and people actually play defense, he said they got nobody on the inside, and they traded Wendell Carter, which at the time didn't seem like a great move, but Vucevic is a punching bag in there. So I still think when you stack them up roster by roster, I'll take the Nets and I'll take the Bucks.
I would take both of them as well if we had to pick there right now.
I'd take the Bucks over the Bulls. That's fine, but show me the last time all 3 of these dudes were healthy for a month, and then I'll tell you that I think they're a reliable contender.
James Harden's sucking this year too.
They've all been healthy for over a month.
Though.
Kyrie just didn't.
By the time the
healthy.
playoffs come around, they'll be figured out. They still got 3 months to figure it out. I think they know they'll be in the playoffs. Harden's out tonight. Durant takes some rest days. Like, they don't care if they're the 3 seed or the 4 seed or the 2 seed. I mean, they'll be in it. And I guarantee you, once the playoffs roll around, barring any weird injuries, everybody. I mean,
It's not weird.
Kyrie's not hurt. Harden misses some days for rest. Durant's healthy. Once the playoffs are there and they're playing games that matter and they're not playing the Orlando Magic favored by 17 points, then they'll all be out there. And I think I don't know if they'll surprise some people, but I think they'll remind you why they were the preseason favorites in the East.
James Harden blows.
I'll say one more thing on this before we move on to something that most of us can agree positively on. The Nets did the same shit last year, and we lost Kyrie and Harden in the playoffs. And also, none of these guys really had like long stretches in the bubble, so they were supposed to be one of the healthier teams, like to have a little more juice going into that last season, and they still weren't able to stay healthy. So, yeah, the Nets healthy should win the finals. But
That's what I think you can bank on.
I don't think you can bank on health with this team.
I think we got to agree to disagree here. I think if I had $100 to bet on one team, I don't even think I'd think twice about putting it on anybody other than the Nets.
Tom, talk about your Cleveland Cavaliers.
Cavs have, at this point in the NBA season, been the biggest surprise in the league. They got front runner, rookie of the year, Evan Mobley, who's holding down the fort with big Jared Allen. With All-Star season or All-Star weekend coming around in about a month, it would be a definite shame if we can't get either Darius Garland or Jared Allen in the All-Star game in Cleveland. One would be huge. It would be a shame if neither of those guys are representing a really good team. And I expect them at this point, I mean, mid-season goal would be to, exceed the play-in tournament type thing and just be a lock for the playoffs. Whereas at the beginning of the year, people were talking about them as a bottom 3 team again. So they got a lot of exciting things and a lot of young faces. I think every starter is like under 25, so they're only going to get better. They're fun to watch too.
KP, you've been concerned about any struggles lately with the Cavs, or we think these are things that will get corrected?
I will bring up their struggles as you can't ask for more than what they've done, but the loss of Ricky Rubio and, Sexton earlier in the year, a team that was, and now Isaac Okoro for a couple of weeks, they're already very thin on the wing, and it's starting to show a little bit. They put a ton of pressure on Garland to pretty much generate offense and assisting and scoring the ball too. I think they need some scoring back there. If so, I think it is a real goal to be able to stay out of the play-in. But unless they get help with some of the teams in the East playing better right now, they might be in that boat still. But we'll see what happens. I think they're going to be pretty aggressive and look to make a move here. So
yeah, I think they need to get another scorer. Karis LeVert's been someone that's been rumored throughout the year. I've seen Joe Harris. Maybe take advantage of a Pacers or Kings team that's got a lot of guards. Buddy Hield, somebody that we can just get in and rely to put up buckets when Garland's having a slower night. Because Rubio is able to at least get us 25 on a good night. I don't see Rondo ever really being able to do that at a consistent
I'd also prefer a guy that can, take the ball up the court. I don't see Buddy Hield or Joe Harris being those guys, but a guy like Karis LeVert or just a guy that can kind of be an ISO guy and go get a bucket when the rest of the team's kind of maybe gassed. That's why you really see a guy like Colin Sexton being missed right now is when the offense is kind of stale, when Darius isn't doing his thing or something, not running the offense. He's just the guy that can go get a quick layup or something like that. So
yeah, it's great that our bigs are a little more mobile, can handle the ball better than most bigs in the league, but you can't rely on these young guys having to make playmaking style plays down the stretch. I mean, Kevin Love's shown capability of doing it at times at a level where he can be a secondary assist guy, but
yeah, I mean, he's been money. So.
Yeah, I'll eat my words on that one.
Me too. I mean, you can't. He's finally earning his money. So
every guy has been great in their role this year at this point in the season. They don't have it all yet.
I mean,
no one expected them to have this.
Yeah, he's much needed off the bench. So
yeah. Anything you guys want to add before we take a break and wrap up the pod?
Yeah, one note. Brooklyn is 0-8 against top 8 teams this season.
All right, so now we wanted to get into probably what's being talked about every single day on ESPN, but we're not going to talk about it for more than a little 5 or 6 minutes. Are the Lakers going to be a contender at any point this season, or do we think this is going to just turn into the 2017-2018 Cavs where LeBron carries his team as far as he can?
Yeah, it's going to be one of those because the Lakers just construct of the team just doesn't make sense with LeBron and Westbrook being the ball handlers that they are. It doesn't make sense. It's a retirement home over there, and they're going to be, starting their offseason early this year, no doubt. They suck.
Yep, I just don't think they got it this year. LeBron will probably end up proving us wrong again because we have seen this before. But it just looks like the supporting cast that he has is just not anywhere close to what it usually is. I mean, he's usually the one carrying the load. Anthony Davis would help if he wanted to decide to play.
He's a pussy.
They're getting ready to give Malik Monk the most improved player after 3 games.
Hey, shout out to Malik Monk, though. I don't know if you guys saw what he's doing with his tattoo, tattoo on his arms. He copied Nick Young. I don't know if you remember when Nick Young only got tattoos on his left arm because he said his right arm was strictly for buckets. Malik Monk is now doing the same thing. So just mediocre players deciding that they're going to try to maintain relevancy, but that's beside the point. But unless the Lakers make some sort of major move, which they have the possibility of doing because they're in LA, but I think it's a lost cause at this point.
Really, the only thing that they could do is trade Russell Westbrook to a team that just wants to sell some tickets for the rest of the year, really, because obviously we know at this point in his career he's not carrying a team too deep into the playoffs on his own. But if a team wants to trade away a bunch of assets for some reason to sell some tickets this year, then I think that's the only way that they move them.
Hey, Pete?
You want to hear about the Lakers? Go listen to the 4-Letter Network.
I'll comment on the Lakers. I think the whole crux of this is the Lakers designed this team for LeBron to hand it over to AD at some point down the stretch here. And Anthony Davis has proven to be an unreliable superstar his entire career. And once again is proving that he's not someone you can rely on to carry a team during a regular season because he can't stay healthy. And then even this year, he puts on weight to try to be a true center. Now he can't defend as well and can't make a fucking jump shot. So whether or not AD comes back, I think is sort of irrelevant. I think this team's ceiling is maybe maybe they could beat the Warriors in a series. I really doubt it. Well, Kyle, you don't think there's a chance the Lakers could beat the Warriors in a series?
I just made a point how I think it's a 2-team race in the West.
Okay.
They weren't one of the teams.
I mean,
I don't know about that one, TM. We might not be adding that one to the list. The Warriors could beat the Lakers could beat the Warriors.
I'm not picking them.
They could, yeah. So could the
you said the word could,
Kings,
which
if
leaves
they
a
get
lot
in.
open for interpretation.
All right. Well, I mean, like, I love Steph Curry this year, and the Warriors team has been fantastic so far. But if Clay is slow to, like, reacclimate, who's their number 2 guy that
They're still the 1 seed in the West without him.
Well, you guys said the regular season doesn't matter. So, I mean, I'm just trying to have
One
a
guy
conversation.
said that.
Okay. Well, that's fair. But I think the Warriors, I would pick them. But I don't see the Lakers being able to get past the Suns. I think the Suns
So
are
you
better
think the
team.
Lakers are winning the finals?
Yeah, that's exactly what I said. Yeah. No, I would take the Suns right now. I think the Suns are deep. They can kind of guard and play with everybody right now. And I think the Lakers are a piece away, and they have no moves to make. So, Tom, is there anyone you'd like to see come out of retirement and maybe hop on this Lakers team and get a 10-day?
Bring Swish back. Bring Deion Waiters back. Stromae Swift back. Every guy with a cool name, you can bring him back for 10 days. I'll watch him.
I don't understand how J.R. Smith hasn't gotten a call at this point.
He's busy golfing. He's being studious.
Yeah, going to school.
He's getting 4.0s.
Somebody I think that maybe should decide to get his ass off the couch and play some basketball again. How about Tyler Hansbrough on the LA Lakers? I think maybe he could bring – I mean, if he gets back to his true Psycho T self, I think maybe he could just be that jolt of energy, maybe kick Anthony Davis's ass in the locker room and tell him to stop being a lazy POS and actually do his job and go play basketball. But Tyler Hansbrough is a name that sticks out. And maybe Michael Jordan. There's a chance that he comes out of retirement to play with LeBron to see who is the real GOAT.
That'll sell tickets.
I think who would not want the price of a Lakers ticket would go from $900
I'd watch that.
to $9,000.
Bill Walton comes out of the booth and back onto the court.
With or without marijuana?
Without.
Without.
You guys want to see a
Like
clean
you said,
game?
he's out of the booth. Bigger, he's got to play.
We're about 45 minutes away from the national championship tonight. No one's going to be able to listen to our picks before the game. Any of you guys want to throw out who you got tonight?
Saban.
Ugga.
Oh, dogs.
All right. Another split
Okay,
decision.
wait. No, wait. Before we end,
Yeah.
the public is on the Tide and the Sharps are on the Bulldogs. For the sheer fact, I think that a lot of people are on the Tide. The line hasn't moved a whole lot. It's been a really interesting week just watching it not move because everyone has been on the Tide. But for you people on the Dogs, what makes you think this is going to be a different outcome from the SEC championship?
You got to send more than 4. He saw his DBs. No Mechie. Okay, Mechie was healthy some of the game last time, but I think he knows you got to put pressure on him. Can't just rush with 4. I think they're going to make an effort to run the football a little bit more, and I think Stetson Bennett does enough.
Adjustments are the difference.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
They can make it their pace early. I do think it's going to become a problem for Alabama because they've shown that they can't really pull away from some tough bad teams this year.
I don't think Cincinnati made it tough enough on Alabama. I think letting Alabama get the run game going is not what you want to do. I think Georgia has enough to control the run game, and then you got to put all your effort in on Jamison Williams. If they just can't let him and Bryce Young single-handedly really beat them again.
I don't understand why, based off everything we just said in the previous game where they played was like 3 weeks ago. Why is Georgia not favored? This doesn't make – why is Alabama not favored?
He said they are favored.
No, they're not.
At least.
Georgia's favored.
Georgia is
like
now.
3 points.
They've been.
Georgia's been favored.
Line
but
really hasn't moved.
I think all the money's on Bama because Bama's the underdog. No, I mean, I think it's a fair point, Chuck, but you look at the team that played most consistently this year, between the two of them, it was Georgia. I think it's fair to say that, like, they played once, point of what the line should be, but I think Alabama kind of exposed that Georgia didn't come up with a super creative scheme, and Georgia didn't really need to win that game to get in. So I think Georgia's going to have something up their sleeve that they didn't show.
We're going to find out in the next 3.5 hours.
Last 7 meetings, Alabama, Georgia. This also consists of regular season matchups. It consists of SEC championship matchups, and it consists of matchups from tonight and title matchups. Alabama won 7 games in a row. So ownage is ownage, and I think that would be enough for me to bet on the Tide.
Let's go, Kirby. Let's go,
Ownage
Kirby.
is ownage, and dickage is dickage. Saban and the Tide.
Let's
Yeah,
go,
Couple
Kirby.
scores.
Kirby's going to be under a lot of hot water if he's not
Let's
able to
go,
pull it out
Kirby.
tonight. But
7 in a row.
I think I took Georgia with you. I
2 and 2. You guys are on the Tide.
yeah, we're split.
All right.
I don't know. We should kind of come up with something that for the next 5 if whoever loses.
Yeah, we'll do it after George.
Yep, we'll figure it out.
Row. You guys decide to pick the team that's lost the 7 games in a row. Yeah, I mean, we don't know for sure yet, but going against the numbers.
But all right, yeah, people are gonna get to listen to us sound like assholes tomorrow making this conversation. But that'll do it for us, and we'll be back next week, hopefully.
Go pour yourself a drink and relax.
Next week.
That's it.